Short Horror Stories. A Child's Silent Return. Part 1. Home. Again. The key turned too smoothly in the lock, as if the house had been waiting. Strange, Michael muttered, nudging the door open. Dust spiraled in the morning sun like it had been disturbed just minutes ago. The air was still. Too still. Sarah stepped inside behind him, suitcase in hand, her eyes scanning the front hall. Worn floorboards, faded wallpaper, a chipped picture frame hanging crooked. It should have felt foreign, but it didn't. This place feels familiar, she said, almost to herself. Michael looked over his shoulder. Deja vu, maybe? She didn't respond. They had found the house listed in a foreclosure auction. Cheap, quiet, on the edge of a dying town called Ashfield. It had seemed like the perfect escape away from the city noise, away from people, away from the things they didn't talk about anymore. But stepping inside, Sarah felt the first ripple of unease tighten in her chest. Not fear, not yet. Something older, something rooted. They unpacked in silence. The power worked. The water ran, though brown at first. Everything in the house functioned, but every room held something off. The furniture left behind wasn't mismatched. As expected in an abandoned home, it fit. The couch, the dining table, even the curtains, like it had been waiting just for them. Upstairs, Sarah opened the last door on the right. A child's room. She froze in the doorway. A small wooden bed with rocket ship sheets. A toy chest. Posters on the wall, dinosaurs, cartoon characters, faded slightly by the sun. The air smelled of old crayon and dust. But what made her breath catch was the photo on the nightstand. She stepped closer, her hand trembling. It was her and Michael, smiling, sitting on that very bed. And between them, grinning with a missing front tooth, was a boy. 6, 7, maybe. Brown curls, blue eyes, familiar. Too familiar. Michael appeared behind her. What is this? Two don't know. He picked up the frame, stared. It's photoshopped, right? It has to be. Sarah didn't answer. She was staring at the dresser. On it sat a stack of drawings. Crayon scribbles. One showed a family of 3. Man, woman, child. Underneath, written in wobbly letters. Mommy, Daddy, me. Michael stepped back, shaking his head. This isn't funny. I'm not laughing. They stood in silence, the weight of something unspoken pressing down on them like the ceiling might cave in. Neither of them said the words out loud. We don't have a child. But they both thought it. Still, the photo frame was warm to the touch, and the boy's name was carved into the wood above the bed, deep and deliberate, even. Part 2. The boy who wasn't there. Sarah didn't sleep that night. She lay stiff in their new bed, sheets untouched by time, listening to the house breathe. Old homes always had their noises, creaking beams, distant groans of settling foundation, but this felt different, like footsteps. Like whispers just beneath the edge of hearing. At 2:11 a.m., she heard a soft thump upstairs. Michael stirred beside her. What was that? I think it came from the boy's room. Don't call it that, he said quickly, but his voice was thick with fear. They climbed the stairs together, flashlight in hand. The hallway stretched darker than it had earlier, swallowing the weak beam. The door to the child's room was ajar now. Sarah hadn't left it open. She pushed it slowly, wincing as the hinges moaned. Nothing. Just the same dim room, same bed, same photo frame. But now the toy chest was open toys scattered across the floor, as if someone had been playing with them. Michael muttered, "Nope, nope." Sarah walked over to the wall. A new drawing was tacked beside the others. It hadn't been there before. A family again, 3 stick figures. But this time, the child had black X's over his eyes, and written below, in block letters, "You forgot me." The next morning, Michael made coffee in silence. Neither of them spoke of what they'd seen. It hung in the air like mold. Maybe we should go into town, he said finally. Ask around. See if anyone knows who lived here before. Sarah nodded, still staring at the drawing she'd taken down from the wall. It lay on the counter like a quiet threat. Ashfield General Store. The bell jingled as they stepped inside. An old man behind the counter gave them a long look. "New folks?" "Just moved in," Michael said, trying to sound casual. "Edge of town. Old house on Grayson Road." The man paused mid-reach for a receipt. His eyes narrowed. "Grayson? You mean the Bellamy place?" "I guess," Sarah said. "Was that the previous owner?" The old man looked down. "Nobody's owned that place in years. But it was in the auction listings." "I don't doubt it," he said, suddenly busy stacking chewing gum. "That don't mean someone should live there." "What happened?" Michael pressed. The man hesitated, then leaned forward, voice low. "Nice couple lived there once. Had a boy. Evan, I think. Smart kid. Quiet. Then one day, they just left. No goodbye. No moving truck. Just gone." Sarah felt her mouth go dry. "What happened to the boy?" she asked. The man's gaze shifted toward the window. "That's the thing. Some say he died. Others say he disappeared. But folks around here don't talk about it much. Too strange. Too sad." He added after a beat. "They say sometimes the house keeps things, especially what's been forgotten." That night, Sarah dreamt she was underwater. She was in the bathtub, but the water was deeper than it should have been, endless. Something brushed her leg. Small fingers. She looked down. A boy's face stared up from the depths, mouth open in a silent scream. She jolted awake, gasping. Michael sat on the edge of the bed, staring out the window. "I saw him," he whispered. Sarah blinked. "What?" "Last night, in the hallway. He was just standing there, watching me." She sat up, heart hammering. "Did he say anything?" Michael nodded slowly. He said, "Why did you make them erase me?" Part 3. Things left behind. By the third day, the house no longer felt like a new place. It felt like home, and that was the most terrifying part. Sarah stood in Evan's room, watching dust motes drift through a beam of light. It was morning, but the room was cold, the kind of cold that settles deep in your chest and makes your breath fog. She ran her hand across the dresser and opened the top drawer. Inside were clothes, folded neatly, tiny jeans, superhero t-shirts, socks with little dinosaurs. She touched one. It was warm, as if just worn. She swallowed. Her gaze drifted to the back of the drawer. There, tucked beneath the sweater, was a small notebook. The cover had been drawn on uneven hearts, stick figures, and in a child's scrawl, "Evan's Secrets." Sarah hesitated, then opened it. Page 1. "Mommy said not to go in the basement, but I heard them talking down there. Nami and Daddy, the others." Page 2. "They come when I'm alone. I told Daddy. He said I was dreaming, but I wasn't." Page 3. "I asked Mommy why I wasn't born like the other kids," she cried. Then she forgot. Sarah felt her pulse thudding in her ears. Her hands trembled. From downstairs, Michael called, "Come look at this." She found him in the garage, standing over a half-rotted cardboard box. "Found it in the crawl space," he said. Inside were VHS tapes, labeled in black marker. "Evan, age 2. Evan, Christmas. Evan, last day." He picked up the last one and looked at Sarah. "Do we watch it?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. They watched. On the screen, the camera wobbled into focus. A birthday cake, blue frosting, balloons taped to a kitchen cabinet. A child sat at the table, Evan grinning, laughing, singing with his parents, with Sarah and Michael. Michael let out a choked noise. That's us." They watched as Sarah leaned down and kissed Evan's head, as Michael handed him a gift. As they sang together, the scene changed. Dark hallway. The camera was shaking. Evan's voice whispered, "They're here again." The screen went black. Then a still image, just a single frame flickered up. Evan, standing in the basement, lit by the weak glow of a flashlight. Behind him, something moved in the dark. Not quite a figure, not quite human, just wrong, then static. Neither of them spoke. Later that night, Michael sat on the edge of the bed again, pale and shaken. "We weren't supposed to remember," he said, eyes wide. Sarah whispered, "What do you mean?" "I saw something in my dream. A room, white walls, people in suits. One of them said they agreed to the purge, emotional, complete, no memory should remain." She stared at him. "I think we made a deal," he said. "We chose to forget." In the hallway, that night, Sarah awoke to the sound of humming. Soft, sweet, a lullaby. She followed it down the hall, barefoot, heart pounding. Evan's door was open. Inside, a small figure sat on the bed, facing away, humming. "Evan," she whispered. The humming stopped. He turned. His eyes were not a child's eyes. Not anymore. "Are you ready to remember, Mommy?" Sarah screamed. Part 4. The Others. The attic was never locked, but it felt that way. The door at the end of the upstairs hallway had no keyhole, no latch. Yet Sarah had tried it 3 times, and each time the knob would not turn. Until now. She didn't remember opening it. She didn't remember walking up the stairs. She simply found herself standing in the dark, the door open before her, as if invited. A gust of cold air wrapped around her shoulders. The space beyond the door was thick with dust, cobwebs hanging like drapes. Her flashlight cut a narrow path into the gloom. Boxes, a rocking chair, a broken mirror, and then movement. Something shifted near the far wall. A figure. No, not a figure. A shadow. But it didn't stretch across the floor like a real shadow should. It rose, slow and tall, then shrank back into the corner, pulsing like breath. Sarah stepped back, heart hammering. The flashlight flickered. Once, twice, then died. In the dark, a whisper slid into her ear, not a voice, but a sensation, a pressure, an idea forced into her mind. "We remember you." She stumbled back, nearly fell down the stairs, slammed the attic door shut and pressed her back to it. The wood felt warm, almost alive. Michael's turn. That same night, Michael found himself standing in front of the basement door. He didn't remember walking there. The door was open, the stairs below, yawning black. He heard a sound. Click, 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 like something crawling. He descended 1 step, then another. The air was wrong, thick, humid, filled with the sour stink of rot. Shapes moved in the dark. He felt them watching. Dozens, hundreds, eyes that weren't eyes. He turned on the light. It didn't work. Then a burst of static from somewhere deeper below. He followed it, like a sleepwalker, until he saw it. A crude wall of children's toys. Stuffed animals, blocks, dolls, eyeless and cracked, built like a barricade. Behind it, whispering. A chorus of voices, all saying the same thing, out of sync. "Don't forget. Don't forget. Don't forget." Michael screamed. The voices grew louder. "You asked us to take it away. You made us bury him. But he remembers." He ran, slamming the basement door behind him, locking it with trembling hands. But even through the door, he could hear the whispering continue. Soft, constant, like a prayer. That night, they sat in the living room. Neither spoke. The house was silent, but both of them felt it a presence. Not just watching, but listening. "We're not alone," Sarah said. Michael nodded. "It's not just the boy." She leaned forward. "He said there were others. What are they?" He swallowed. "I think they're part of whatever did this to us. Part of the price." Sarah stared into the dark hallway. "They live here?" Michael's voice broke. "They live in us." Evan's drawing updated. The next morning, Sarah returned to Evan's room. Another drawing lay on the desk, fresh. A stick figure version of her frowning. Michael beside her. Then Evan smaller, in a red crayon circle. And behind him, a dozen tall black shapes. No faces, just long limbs and wide mouths drawn in jagged lines. Above them, written in red. They said I don't belong here anymore. They said it's your turn now. Part 5, the memory room. Sarah awoke in the hallway. She had no memory of getting out of bed. The floor beneath her felt soft, carpeted, but the hallway had hardwood. She opened her eyes. She wasn't in their house. She was in a room of mirrors. They stretched from floor to ceiling, warped and dusty, reflecting versions of her that didn't match. One wept silently. Another screamed. A third held a child in her arms and whispered, "Don't leave me again." Behind the mirrors, she saw shadows moving. The others. And then, one mirror shattered. She stepped through the broken glass. On the other side was a hospital room. Pale walls. A window with yellow curtains. Michael sat in a chair, staring at a small bed. In it, Evan, but he was pale, still, tubes in his arms. Sarah stepped forward. He was sick, she whispered. "Cancer," Michael said. "We tried everything, and we failed." The sound of a flatline echoed through the room. Sarah gasped. "I remember now." Tears blurred her vision. "We couldn't live with it. So, we made a deal." The deal. They stood in a white room. A man in a suit sat across from them. No face, just a smear of suggestion, as if reality rejected his existence. He spoke with many voices. "You understand the terms?" Michael and Sarah nodded. Broken. Desperate. Memory purge. Emotional suppression. Child erased from cognitive stream. All consequences deferred. You'll forget. You'll heal. But you'll never be whole. They signed. In blood. And the man turned to the corner where the others waited. Long-limbed. Watching. Smiling. Back in the present. Sarah woke in the living room, heart pounding. Michael sat across from her, pale and shaking. "I saw it," he said. "All of it. We chose to forget him. We paid them to erase him. And now, he remembers. The return. That night, Evan returned. Not as a ghost, not as a boy, but as something in between. He stood in the hallway, blue eyes glowing faintly. Around him, the others whispered and writhed, clinging to the walls like oil. "You gave me away," he said. "You chose peace over me." Michael dropped to his knees. "We didn't know how to survive it." "I waited," Evan whispered, "in the dark, while they fed on my name." Sarah took a step forward. "We're sorry. We're so sorry." "It's too late," he said. "They want new memories now." The others stepped forward. Last stand. The house bent under the weight of presence. Rooms twisted. Walls bled. Lights screamed instead of glowing. Michael grabbed Sarah's hand. "We can fight them." "How?" "We remember." He looked into Evan's eyes. "Your first words were Mama. You hated green beans. You loved the stars." Sarah sobbed. "You used to call me Captain Mommy when we played spaceship. You had a toy lion named Bram." Evan blinked. The others shrieked. The house howled. Michael and Sarah screamed the memories out. One by one, birthdays, bruises, bedtime stories, and the shadows began to burn. Curl. Collapse. The more they remembered, the less power the others had, until the house went silent. Morning. The sun rose. Evan stood in the hallway. Not glowing. Not ghostly. Just a boy. "Am I real?" he asked. Sarah touched his face. "You are now." He smiled and vanished. Part 6, Home. Remembered. They found themselves standing outside the house. Morning light spilled across the overgrown yard. The fog that had wrapped the property for days was gone, burned away by memory, or maybe something greater. Sarah's hand trembled in Michael's. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The house behind them looked different. Not new, not haunted, just real. No more breathing shadows, no more whispers behind the walls. It was quiet now, the quiet of peace, not dread. Inside, Evan's room was empty. The drawings were gone. The crayon marks on the wall wiped clean. The photo frames no longer flickered or shifted. But when Sarah opened the drawer where she'd found his notebook, one thing remained. A single Polaroid. Michael, Sarah, and Evan, all smiling, a day in the park. Evan had ice cream on his nose. On the back, written in a child's messy handwriting, "Now you remember. Thank you." Sarah held the photo to her chest and cried. A new beginning. They didn't move out. They stayed. They painted Evan's room a soft yellow, planted flowers in the yard, repaired the stairs that always creaked. There were still cold nights, and moments where they swore they heard footsteps, but they weren't afraid anymore. The house no longer felt like it was hiding something. It felt like it was healing, like they all were. Some memories still hurt, and always would. But pain was no longer something to bury. It was a thread in the fabric of their lives, a reminder of what mattered, of who mattered. And sometimes, on quiet mornings, Sarah would walk past the yellow room and see the curtains fluttering in a breeze from a window that wasn't open. And in that soft movement, she felt love, eternal, unforgotten, the end.